Good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in internet world. Welcome to another edition of Golden Independence. It's a beautiful day. We are here live in the islands of Bermuda. It's wonderful. Ah. So, welcome to the channel where we talk about Bitcoin mainly. The most hardest asset in the world. And what we want to do, I mean, if you've been living under a rock somewhere, you would know. Possibly, maybe. One of the greatest opportunities right now in this space. And that is uh, Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen. I like this. Let's come down here. Looks like we got a nice little beachfront. So, what's the latest and the greatest? Well, the IMF, ladies and gentlemen, have told El Salvador, basically, pretty much, to stop buying Bitcoin or to stop mining Bitcoin. Yes, El Salvador is mining Bitcoin. They are using thermal energy from their volcanoes, apparently. That's right. El Salvador is mining Bitcoin using thermal energy. How are you getting your Bitcoin? Huh? This is major. We have, let's see, we have the US who have announced and confirmed that the strategic Bitcoin reserve, not crypto, Bitcoin reserve, is a go, which means that they're looking to acquire at least 1 million Bitcoin. A million Bitcoin, whole Bitcoin. And we all know that when the US does something, the rest of the world follows, right? I mean, we already know of countries like Bhutan, Russia, China. These places are already engaged in acquiring Bitcoin for their own nations. Yeah. Individual states of the United States are actively acquiring Bitcoin for their own Bitcoin reserve. You see, the game theory of Bitcoin is playing out. It's already been playing out, you see. That's why you don't see it crashing back down to 50K or 20K, because when Bitcoin does have, drop, have a crash, whatever, 20, drops 20%, it's not going back down to low levels. Why? Because the the people with the wealth, the wealthy are right there at the bottom, gobbling it up. Not to mention the black rocks and the micro strategists. You think just because Bitcoin has stopped, I mean Bitcoin has dropped, you think micro strategy isn't uh you think that they've stopped buying Bitcoin? Huh? You think MicroStrategy has stopped buying Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen? You think BlackRock has stopped buying Bitcoin? You think you think Russia has stopped mining Bitcoin just because the price dropped? That's called Black Friday. That's called Thanksgiving sale. That's called a discount. The price of Bitcoin right now, where it is called a discount. And also, why I'm excited is because with BitHarvest, we get more Satoshis. That's right. We get more Satoshis. We're getting more Satoshis right now. And which means that in the future, right, the Satoshis that we get now are going to be worth even more. See, it's a win-win with BitHarvest. We win all the way. Of when the price of Bitcoin goes down, we get more Satoshis, which means our assets increase when it goes back up. Big up to everyone who's utilizing the BitHarvest system to acquire more income producing assets, i.e., the BitBooster, to acquire more Satoshis. Satoshis are extremely undervalued right now as we speak. Severely undervalued. But we're basically getting them for free. That's right. We are leveraging an opportunity to acquire Satoshis, and I'm here to let you know that that the opportunity is here. You're not going to see this. You're not going to find this opportunity on the web. Wait a minute. You just might, because there are scammers out there. You see what I'm saying? The scammers have already done up a website similar to BitHarvest, right? Similar to BitHarvest, to scam you. This is why, right? This is why channels like mine is important, because the only way how you can get involved is through invitation. If you go onto a website where you think it's BitHarvest and it's not actually BitHarvest, but this is how you know it's real. This is how you know BitHarvest is real, because we have these scammers copycatting, doing copycat websites. And then they just take your money and you get nothing. The fact that the IMF, let's get back to the IMF, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that the IMF has the balls, like they're just out there. This doesn't make any sense. They actually said to El Salvador, stop mining Bitcoin, take this debt money. Now it's like they're trying to force El Salvador in particular to take their debt and to dictate to them about, oh, you can't get Bitcoin. You see, between El Salvador and the U.S. How come the IMF isn't saying that to the U.S.? How come the IMF is not saying that to Russia? How come the IMF isn't saying that to China? How come the IMF you got wrong good? You got wrong good with it. Yeah, because do you think it's possible they're saying this to El Salvador because Salvador is rich with natural resources? I just told you that they are mining Bitcoin using their volcanic thermal energy. That's how they're mining Bitcoin. Now, the only thing we need to be mindful of and careful of and watch, we need to send some prayers up for the president of El Salvador because the IMF, we all know, they're economic hitman. And the first level is they get countries in debt. When the leaders don't do what they say in order for the debt to keep coming, they send the jackals to assassinate the leader. And although we're all saying, "Yay, El Salvador, yes, get that Bitcoin," tell IMF bug off, right? It's levels to this, ladies and gentlemen, because the IMF is basically giving them warnings if they don't do right. If they don't do what they say, they send the jackals. They send the jackals. And if the jackals don't work, i.e., if the assassinations don't work, what I'm looking for is assassination attempts on the president of El Salvador. I think that's coming in the future. And if they are unsuccessful with the assassination attempts, some form of military is going in. And some form of military is going in. And we all know that the US, that the United States is the military arm of the IMF. That's what happened with Gaddafi. That's what happened with Saddam Hussein. That's what happened with also with Nicaragua, right? This is how these people are at the upper levels. This is how they operate. When countries are rich with natural resources, it's all about controlling what's in the country, and how they control is through debt, is by getting the nations in debt. And one thing about the IMF, who's in charge of who's the head of the IMF? The head of the IMF is basically the US, the um, international money fund, right? It's the US, like they're back there. They are back there in the wings underneath that, just like the United Nations. The United Nations is the head of that, too. Check it out. You ain't gotta take my word for it. Like, you see what I'm saying? Now, the one thing that's interesting is is the fact that the U.S. are looking to have the strategic Bitcoin reserve for themselves. And if they're looking to have the strategic Bitcoin reserve for themselves, right, and the leaders of Bitcoin, the leaders of the U.S., they understand what Bitcoin is, they may not care about El Salvador. They may not care about El Salvador and how they're doing it. And especially because if they know that El Salvador does not have more Bitcoin than them. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think that they're going to go after El Salvador. I think that's why they're just leaving El Salvador alone. They're not really coming after El Salvador, because El Salvador they don't have the amount of Bitcoin that the US currently holds. But what's funny is the US holds it, but they don't even know how to access it. So you might as well say that. So from that standpoint, they have none. They can't properly secure it. However, when it comes to buying Bitcoin, once all the laws are in place, they will still surpass El Salvador. Why? Because El Salvador has to borrow money. The U.S. can print money. The U.S. is one of the nations in the world that could print. They print their own currency. They could print the U.S. dollar and just buy. See, El Salvador can't print their currency to buy Bitcoin. They have to borrow from the IMF. And what they've been doing, I believe, this is my opinion, I don't know if this is true or not, but you could check it out. I believe that they took the loan from the IMF and bought Bitcoin and increased their Bitcoin holdings. Yeah. How about that? Which means they'll be able to pay off their debt and not have to worry about the IMF. It's incredible. Mm-hmm. Look at this. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful day being in nature. Yeah. So, my friends, we have to stay connected to what's going on in the world, and we need to position ourselves accordingly, because the future is looking extremely bright. Extremely bright. So, stack sats. Check the link below. Get your BitHarvest account and relax. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bless up.